What if the perfect spy was destroyed by his own success? Damascus, January 1965. A radio technician climbs the stairs to apartment 27 on Abu Rumaneh Street, following a signal that's been transmitting Israeli military secrets for nearly 2 years. He knocks. The man who answers is Kamal Amin Thabet, wealthy businessman, trusted advisor to Syria's president, friend to generals and intelligence chiefs. Within hours, Syria announces they've captured Eli Cohen, Israel's most valuable spy. But the question no one asks is more important than the capture itself. How did a Jewish man from Egypt convince Syria's entire military establishment he was one of them? And why did the deception that gave him everything ultimately guarantee his destruction? This is not a story about espionage tradecraft. It's about what happens when a lie works too well. Alexandria, Egypt, 1924. Eli Cohen is born into a Syrian Jewish family that fled Damascus decades earlier. He grows up speaking Arabic with a Damascus accent, learning Syrian customs, memorizing family genealogies from neighborhoods he's never seen. His parents raise him as Egyptian, but his culture, his dialect, his entire social vocabulary is Syrian. When Israel declares independence in 1948, Egypt expels most of its Jewish population. Cohen arrives in Israel at 24, trained as an accountant, fluent in Arabic, and essentially unemployed. Israeli intelligence recruits him for operations in Egypt, but his assignments are minor: translation work, background checks, low-level courier missions. By 1960, he's 36 years old, working as an accountant in Tel Aviv, married with children, and functionally retired from intelligence work. Then Mossad approaches him with an assignment that violates every principle of long-term espionage: infiltrate Syria by pretending to be a wealthy Syrian expatriate returning home during a period of extreme political instability. The plan has a fundamental flaw. Wealthy Syrians don't return during military coups. They protect their assets abroad. They wait for stability. A businessman returning to Damascus in 1961 during back-to-back military takeovers would immediately seem suspicious to any competent counterintelligence service. But Mossad believes the instability creates opportunity. Syrian security services are focused on internal threats, military purges, and political rivals. A wealthy expatriate arriving with letters of recommendation and money to invest might slip through unnoticed. Cohen accepts the mission, not because the plan is sound, but because he's been waiting 12 years for Israel to need the one skill he has that no one else possesses. He doesn't need to pretend to be Syrian. He already is. Buenos Aires, Argentina, 1961. Before deploying to Damascus, Cohen must build his legend. His cover identity is Kamal Amin Thabet, textile merchant born in Beirut, raised in Argentina, now committed to returning home to support Syria's Ba'athist revolution. His target in Argentina, Major Amin al-Hafez, a Syrian military officer stationed in Buenos Aires as a military attaché. Cohen throws parties at expensive restaurants. He buys gifts. He loans money to Syrian expatriates. He presents himself as a wealthy patriot willing to fund nationalist causes. Al-Hafez accepts the attention. He writes letters of introduction for Cohen. He arranges meetings with other Syrian diplomats. He describes Cohen in official correspondence as a devoted Syrian businessman committed to the revolution. What neither man knows, within 18 months, Al-Hafez will overthrow Syria's government and become president. Cohen thinks he's cultivating a mid-level military contact. He's accidentally building a personal friendship with Syria's future dictator. The deception succeeds for reasons that have nothing to do with planning, strategy, or tradecraft. It succeeds because of timing. Cohen couldn't predict, and political developments no one foresaw. Al-Hafez's endorsement will make Cohen untouchable in Damascus, but it will also make his eventual betrayal unforgivable. January 1962. Cohen arrives at the Syrian border with Al-Hafez's letters and cash. Border officials process him without significant questioning. He rents an apartment on Abu Rumaneh Street in Damascus, the same neighborhood where military commanders and intelligence officers live. He furnishes it expensively. He begins hosting parties. Within 3 weeks, Syrian generals are drinking in his living room. They discuss military appointments openly. They complain about political rivals. They ask Cohen for business advice and political opinions. No one questions his background. No one runs a serious security check. Al-Hafez's endorsement functions like a shield. Vouched for by a presidential ally means automatic trust from everyone else. But Cohen now faces a problem his training never addressed. He's too successful, too quickly. Generals are asking him to join government committees. They want his advice on defense procurement. They're discussing formal appointments. If he accepts, he'll be photographed, documented, locked into official records that will make extraction nearly impossible. If he refuses, he'll insult the men who trust him. How do you maintain a deception when success itself becomes the greatest risk? Cohen solves the appointment problem with a lie that creates a new vulnerability. He tells Syrian officials he must finalize business deals in Argentina before accepting any government position. The excuse works. Generals stop pressuring him for immediate commitments. They agree to wait. But now, Cohen must travel between Damascus and Buenos Aires every few months to maintain the fiction. Each trip means border crossings, customs inspections, passport stamps, documentation. Each absence from Damascus raises questions about his commitment to Syria's revolution. In March 1963, Cohen returns to Damascus after a month in Argentina. A customs official examines his luggage more thoroughly than previous inspections. He finds nothing. Cohen never carries documents, never travels with anything connected to intelligence work. All his communications happen through coded letters mailed from Damascus or radio transmissions from his apartment. The official notes Cohen's travel frequency in a border log. The entry sits in a file that Syrian counterintelligence isn't actively monitoring. Not yet. Cohen thinks the inspection is routine bureaucracy. He doesn't realize he's creating a pattern that will be analyzed later. By mid-1963, Cohen's access expands, beyond anything Mossad anticipated. He attends classified military briefings. Syrian commanders show him defense plans for the Golan Heights, the strategic plateau overlooking northern Israel. They ask his opinion on fortifications, troop deployments, artillery positioning. They're testing him, watching whether his nationalist rhetoric matches genuine strategic thinking, whether his hatred of Israel is performative or real. Cohen responds with a suggestion that seems minor. Plant eucalyptus trees near bunkers and artillery positions on the Golan Heights. The trees will provide shade for soldiers during Syria's brutal summer heat, a practical solution to a morale problem. Syrian generals love the idea. They order immediate implementation. Within months, rows of eucalyptus trees mark every fortified position on the Golan Heights. What Cohen actually did, he created a map. Israeli reconnaissance planes can now photograph the Golan Heights and identify every Syrian military position by the tree lines. The deception is so elegant that Syrian commanders credit Cohen with strategic brilliance, but the success creates a new problem. Officers begin describing Cohen as a military thinker. They quote his suggestions in planning meetings. President Al-Hafez personally tells Cohen he should join the defense ministry in an official capacity. The offer is genuine. Al-Hafez trusts Cohen completely. He wants to reward his friend's loyalty with power. Cohen requests time to consider. He sends an urgent message to his Mossad handlers in Tel Aviv. The Syrians want to make him a government official. If he accepts, he'll be photographed for identity documents, registered in state records, locked into a role that eliminates any cover for extraction if something goes wrong. Tel Aviv's response takes 3 days. When it arrives, the instruction is clear: delay, but do not refuse outright. The intelligence Cohen is gathering, detailed Syrian military plans, internal political conflicts, weapons procurement strategies, is too valuable to abandon. But there's something else in the message. Something Cohen hasn't seen before in communications with his handlers. Doubt about how long the operation can continue without collapse. Mossad is beginning to question whether Cohen's success is sustainable, whether the deception has already exceeded its natural lifespan, whether they should extract him before something breaks. Cohen ignores the doubt. He believes he can maintain the performance indefinitely. He's been living as Kamal Amin Thabet for nearly 2 years. The identity feels natural now. Syrian generals embrace him. Al-Hafez treats him like family. The lie has become more comfortable than the truth. Late 1963. Colonel Ahmed Swidani is promoted to head of Syrian military intelligence. His first assignment: review security protocols for officials with access to classified information. Swidani is different from other Syrian officers Cohen has encountered. He doesn't drink alcohol. He doesn't attend Cohen's parties. He watches people carefully and speaks rarely. During a mandatory security briefing, Swidani sits in the back of the room, while Cohen mingles with other officials. He doesn't approach, he doesn't introduce himself, he observes. What Swidany notices: Cohen asks extremely specific technical questions. Not broad political questions or general strategic discussions, detailed inquiries about radio frequencies, troop rotation schedules, artillery calibrations. The kind of questions an intelligence officer would ask, not a businessman. Swidany doesn't confront Cohen. He doesn't alert other officials. He simply requests Cohen's background file from military records. The file shows Cohen entered Syria with letters from President al-Hafez. Because of that endorsement, standard background checks were waived. No one verified his business claims in Argentina. No one contacted family members in Beirut. No one confirmed any detail of his legend beyond al-Hafez's personal guarantee. Swidany assigns 2 intelligence officers to quietly verify Cohen's story. Contact textile businesses in Argentina. Find family records in Beirut. Interview neighbors in Damascus about Cohen's activities. The investigation moves slowly, deliberately slow. Swidany doesn't want Cohen to know he's being examined. If Cohen is a spy, panicked behavior will confirm it. If he's legitimate, the investigation will quietly close. Cohen doesn't know Swidany suspects him. He continues hosting parties, gathering intelligence, transmitting to Tel Aviv 3 times per week using the hidden radio in his apartment. He believes the performance is still working. But someone in Syrian intelligence now knows something is wrong with Kamel Amin Thabit's story. They just don't know what yet. The deception hasn't collapsed, but it's already dead. It just hasn't stopped moving. December 1964. Cohen receives a message from Tel Aviv that changes everything. Soviet technical advisors are arriving in Damascus to assist Syrian intelligence with counterintelligence operations. The Soviets are bringing radio detection equipment far more sophisticated than anything Syria currently possesses. Mossad instructs Cohen to reduce transmission frequency immediately. Switch to emergency protocol. Communicate only when absolutely necessary. Use dead drops for non-urgent intelligence. Minimize radio usage. Cohen reads the instruction and makes a decision his handlers will never understand. He ignores it. His reasoning seems logical. Changing his transmission pattern after 2 years of consistent behavior will itself create suspicion. Syrian intelligence might be monitoring for exactly this kind of sudden operational shift. Maintaining routine feels safer than breaking it. What Cohen doesn't realize: Syrian intelligence isn't monitoring his patterns yet because they don't know he exists. Swidany's investigation is still gathering background information, verifying business claims, checking travel records. They're not listening for radio transmissions because they haven't connected Cohen to espionage yet. By maintaining his regular broadcasts, Cohen is creating the evidence that will eventually confirm Swidany's suspicions. January 1965. Soviet advisors arrive with mobile radio detection units capable of triangulating transmissions within a few hundred meters. Syrian intelligence requests their assistance tracking illegal broadcasts, not because they suspect Israeli espionage, but because Damascus has multiple underground political groups using hidden radios to coordinate opposition activities. The Soviets begin systematic sweeps of Damascus neighborhoods. They identify several illegal transmitters within the first week, all belonging to Syrian opposition groups, none connected to foreign intelligence. Then they detect a signal pattern that doesn't match opposition groups. Regular transmissions, always after midnight, always lasting exactly 12 minutes, using frequencies that correspond to known Israeli intelligence bands. Syrian intelligence orders the Soviets to prioritize tracking this specific signal. They don't tell President al-Hafez yet. They don't alert military commanders. They want to identify the source before announcing a potential security breach. Cohen transmits on January 15th without knowing Syrian and Soviet counterintelligence teams are now actively hunting his signal. The broadcast completes normally. He disassembles the radio equipment, hides it in the apartment wall, cavity, and goes to sleep. The next morning, he attends a meeting at the Defense Ministry. A general asks his opinion on Israeli military movements near the Golan Heights. Cohen provides analysis based on intelligence he transmitted to Tel Aviv 3 days earlier, information Syrian reconnaissance gathered but hasn't distributed widely yet. The general thanks him for the insight. Cohen leaves the meeting believing everything is proceeding normally. What Cohen doesn't see: Colonel Swidany is in the hallway outside the meeting room. He watches Cohen leave. He's now waiting for one more piece of evidence before making an arrest. January 18th, Cohen prepares for his regular midnight transmission. He retrieves the radio from its hiding place, extends the antenna through a small apartment window, and begins encoding the message he'll send to Tel Aviv. The intelligence is significant. Syria is planning a major military exercise near the Israeli border in March. Detailed troop movements, new Soviet weapons deliveries, internal political conflicts within the Ba'ath Party leadership. At 11:47 p.m., Cohen begins transmitting. 4 blocks away, a Soviet radio detection truck locks onto the signal. They triangulate the source to Abu Rumaneh Street. Within minutes, they narrow it to a specific building. At 12:03 a.m., Cohen finishes the transmission. He disassembles the equipment, returns it to the wall cavity, and sits at his kitchen table reviewing notes for tomorrow's meetings. At 12:15 a.m., there's a knock at his door. Cohen freezes. Late-night visits are unusual but not unprecedented. Syrian officers sometimes stop by his apartment after evening meetings. He's hosted impromptu gatherings before. He walks to the door calmly. He can't hesitate. Hesitation would confirm guilt. He opens it. A Syrian radio technician stands in the hallway holding detection equipment. Behind him are 2 military intelligence officers. The technician speaks politely. "We're tracing electrical interference in the building. May we check your apartment?" This is the moment. Cohen can refuse, claim it's too late, ask them to return tomorrow, exercise his rights as a resident. Refusing would give him time to hide evidence more thoroughly, contact his handlers, potentially abort and attempt extraction. But refusing also confirms suspicion. If he's innocent, he has no reason to deny entry. The performance has always depended on appearing cooperative, trustworthy, beyond suspicion. Cohen smiles. "Of course. Please, come in." The technician enters with his detection equipment. The officers wait in the doorway, not threatening, just observing. They're not treating this as an arrest. Not yet. The technician moves through the apartment methodically. He checks electrical outlets, examines the kitchen, inspects the bedroom. His equipment registers normal readings. Then he approaches the living room wall. The signal reading spikes. He looks at Cohen. "There's something unusual here. May I examine this wall?" Cohen maintains his expression, confused, cooperative, slightly annoyed by the intrusion but willing to help. "I don't know what you'd find. Please, go ahead." The technician removes a decorative panel. Behind it is the wall cavity. Inside the cavity, radio transmitter, encoding equipment, spare batteries, frequency charts. The technician steps back. The military intelligence officers enter the apartment. One of them speaks quietly. "Kamel Amin Thabet, you're under arrest for espionage." Cohen doesn't run, doesn't fight, doesn't protest. He simply nods. Because protesting would mean breaking character, and even now, even with the radio equipment exposed, some part of him still believes the performance might hold. That Al-Hafez's trust might override physical evidence, that the deception he's maintained for 3 years might be stronger than proof. It's not. As they escort him from the apartment, Cohen sees neighbors watching from their doorways. Syrian military families who attended his parties, drank his whiskey, shared classified information in his living room. They're not angry yet, just confused. They still think Kamel Amin Thabet is their friend. That confusion will turn to rage soon enough. Syrian military intelligence transfers Cohen to a detention facility in Damascus. They don't announce the arrest publicly, not yet, because Colonel Suadani and his team still don't fully understand what they've captured. The radio equipment proves Cohen was transmitting intelligence. But to whom? For how long? And most importantly, who is he really? They begin interrogation immediately. Cohen maintains his cover for the first 18 hours. He claims he's Kamel Amin Thabet, that someone must have planted the equipment in his apartment, that he's being framed by political enemies. The performance almost works. Some Syrian officers still want to believe him. President Al-Hafez demands to see the evidence personally. He reviews the radio transcripts, the decoded messages, the transmission logs. Al-Hafez realizes his closest advisor, the man he trusted with classified military briefings, the friend he was preparing to appoint as deputy defense minister, is an Israeli spy. The betrayal isn't just operational, it's personal. Al-Hafez had vouched for Cohen's loyalty. He had overridden security protocols based on personal friendship. Every military plan Cohen reviewed, every classified briefing he attended, Every strategic discussion he participated in, all of it went directly to Israeli intelligence. Al-Hafez orders Sweidani to extract a full confession. Use whatever methods necessary. After 3 days of interrogation, Cohen breaks. He admits his real identity, Eli Cohen, Israeli intelligence officer, born in Egypt, recruited by Mossad in 1960. He provides details about his handlers, his training, his mission parameters. Syrian state media announces the capture on January 24, 1965. They broadcast excerpts of Cohen's confession on national television. They display the radio equipment, the encoded messages, photographs of Cohen with Syrian generals and government officials. The announcement devastates Syria's military establishment. Officers who trusted Cohen face immediate suspicion. Were they complicit? Were they deceived? How many other Israeli spies might be operating in Damascus? President Al-Hafez faces political pressure to demonstrate strength. He can't appear weak after such a massive intelligence failure. He orders a public trial. Israel immediately begins negotiating for Cohen's release. They offer prisoner exchanges, financial payments, diplomatic concessions. They mobilize international pressure through the United Nations and European governments. But Syria refuses every offer. The betrayal is too public, too humiliating. Releasing Cohen would signal that personal friendships and foreign pressure override Syrian sovereignty. On May 18, 1965, after a brief show trial, Eli Cohen is hanged in Marjah Square, Damascus. Syrian television broadcasts the execution live. Thousands of Syrians attend. They chant anti-Israeli slogans while Cohen is led to the gallows. Cohen's final words are a request: allow his body to be returned to Israel for burial. Syria denies the request. His remains are buried in an unmarked grave in Damascus. The intelligence Cohen gathered transforms Israeli military planning. The eucalyptus trees he convinced Syria to plant on the Golan Heights provide Israeli forces with a detailed map of Syrian fortifications during the Six-Day War in 1960-70. Israel captures the Golan Heights in less than 3 days, partially because Cohen's intelligence allowed them to target Syrian positions with precision. But the operational success masks a deeper failure. Cohen's execution exposed Mossad's entire methodology for deep cover operations in Arab countries. Syrian intelligence began systematically reviewing all foreign businessmen, all wealthy expatriates who returned during political instability, all individuals with letters of introduction from senior officials. Other Israeli intelligence operations in Damascus collapsed within months. Agents who had operated successfully for years were suddenly under surveillance. Some were arrested, others fled. The network Cohen helped build was destroyed along with him. Mossad learned a lesson they should have understood before deploying Cohen. Perfect deception creates perfect vulnerability. The closer an agent gets to the center of power, the more catastrophic their exposure becomes, not just for the agent, but for every operation connected to the same methodology. Cohen's family spent decades requesting the return of his remains. Syria refused every appeal. In 2001, Israeli and Syrian officials briefly discussed including Cohen's body in a broader peace negotiation. The talks collapsed. As of 2026, Eli Cohen remains buried in Damascus. The spy who almost became Syria's deputy defense minister lies in an unmarked grave in the country that will never forgive him, honored by the country that still won't formally acknowledge how his success guaranteed his destruction. The deception worked exactly as designed. That's why it killed him. If you want to understand how intelligence operations actually function, not how they're romanticized, but how they succeed and fail for reasons no one predicts, check out the other stories on this channel. Subscribe if you haven't already, because the next one reveals something even more unsettling. What happens when the people you're deceiving know you're lying, but let you continue anyway?